Hire award-winning prime-time news team.
Good evening. Search and rescue efforts continue in parts of Kansas tonight.
24 hours ago, a series of tornadoes ripped a path of destruction across Kansas and Oklahoma, killing at least 27 people. Many of the dead are from Andover, Kansas, a suburb of Wichita. Nearly half the population of Andover, some 2,000 people, can't sleep in their homes tonight. They've either been destroyed or heavily damaged. This is all that remains of a mobile home park where 17 people died. Many of the residents ignored the tornado warnings and decided to ride out the storm in their trailers instead of in a shelter.
When I came back, I seen a lot of neighbors that didn't make it. It was sad.
The twister cut a mile-wide path of destruction through Andover. 500 homes damaged or destroyed.
It's just a tragedy of enormous consequence, and it's still unfolding. And this is obviously a time where our focus and our attention ought to be on assisting our neighbors in any way we can.
Dozens of tornadoes touched down in Kansas. This one spotted near Wichita. Along the Kansas Turnpike, a local TV news crew spotted another. They bailed out of their car and hid under a bridge.
It sounded like a freight train. It just passed right on top of us. People very upset. People underneath the girders of this overpass. They're still hanging on for their lives. It's coming at us.
Luckily, the TV crew and the other people under the bridge were not hurt. Officials in Andover say the tornado caused about $50 million worth of damage.
Well, the Minnesota Senate has...
Minneapolis police are investigating the death of a St. Paul man. His body was found this afternoon in a garage behind his home on Eustis Street. Ramsey County Sheriff's officials say they got an emergency call from someone who spotted the victim in the garage, but investigators think the man was killed outside of the city.
Up in their city.
The victim died of a gunshot wound, but police won't release details of the crime or the man's name until relatives are notified. Investigators are trying to piece together clues in the slaying of a Plymouth woman. The body of 34-year-old Ellen Stotts was found in her home this morning on County Road 24 and Kimberly Lane. Neighbors were shocked by the killing, calling Stotts a friendly, generous woman. They say she and her husband Kevin were planning to move to a farm in Maple Plain they recently purchased. Plymouth police say they've interviewed one person in connection with the woman's death, but no one is in custody.
Family and friends of Minnesota suicide victims held a vigil at the state capitol today.
For the first time in over a decade, a U.S. military plane flew to Iran on official business.
The Air Force transport plane carried tons of donated blankets for Kurdish refugees. The last time a U.S. plane landed in Iran was in 1985 during the secret Armed for Hostage scandal. Today's flight is seen as a sign of changing U.S. relations with Iran's government.
A 9-year-old lung transplant recipient remains in critical but stable condition tonight. Alyssa Plum received part of her father's right lung earlier this week. Wednesday's operation was only the 4th transplant in the world involving a living related donor. Hundreds of Twin Cityans stood in line this morning outside the U of M Fieldhouse to try to get on national TV.
They were competing in the first Twin Cities tryouts for the show American Gladiators. Fritzy Borgward shows us how they did it.
For months, Rick...
Fueling of the Space Shuttle Discovery is scheduled to begin in just a few hours. NASA officials scrubbed a launch attempt earlier this week because of an engine sensor problem. Officials are concerned fog may delay tomorrow's early morning launch. Forecasters say there's a good chance the fog will burn off before the launch window closes later in the morning. Discovery's mission is to conduct research for a missile defense program.
I keep wanting to go out and work in the garden. I want to plant things. It seems so nice out.
A lot of folks doing that.
It's nice. Actually, a garden's a nice thing with the weather we've had. Nice place to be working.
It's done. We got something bad coming?
No, nothing bad coming. We'll have less wind for tomorrow, less problems if you're going to be out golfing or doing stuff like that. We'll have all the details when we come back.
And the entire award-winning prime-time news team.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. The Minnesota North Stars are reaching for the Stars tonight at Met Center.
The team is trying to oust St. Louis in Game 6 of their playoff series.
If Minnesota wins, it's on to the conference finals.
If the Stars lose, it's back to St. Louis for a decisive Game 7. Jim Gilliland joins us now to tell us in which direction the Stars are headed.
Well, it's kind of a push right now and show you some of the key saves by each goalie.
Great. Thank you, Jim.
Well, thousands of North Star fans showed up early for tonight's game, not to get a seat, but a parking spot for tailgating, a sport almost as entertaining as the hockey game. 90 minutes before game time, and the fans are restless. They want into the Met Center parking lot for their pregame warm-up. In past years, the parking lot was open earlier, but the new management has changed things, and some fans don't like it.
There was lines all the way down 494, 2 miles.
Yeah, there was.
It was awful.
The North Stars organization has decided fans who show up too early will get too drunk.
We're concerned about the influence of alcohol on folks who maybe would spend all day here and how that might disrupt fans around them inside the building. And frankly, we're also concerned about the influence of alcohol after the game as people have to leave here.
A lot of the fans come to guzzle and grill, but some just to enjoy a nice spring evening.
We decided rather than go out to dinner tonight, we'd come here and just relax.
Extra police are on hand in case the crowd gets too rowdy, but officers say, for the most part, everyone gets along.
They seem like very nice people.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Blues. Bye-bye. You'd expect the sock shirt.
As Jim mentioned, tonight's game is a sellout, but you could get a seat if you were willing to pay. Scalpers were asking up to $65 a ticket.
A Minnesota woman is on her way tonight to help in the Kurdish refugee camp Army if they return to their homes.
The man accused of starting the Gulf War is celebrating a birthday today. Thousands of well-wishers turned out to honor Saddam Hussein. It's his 54th birthday. Festivities included singing and dancing by children dressed in traditional costumes. Hussein's hometown swung into high gear for the celebration. The Minneapolis Urban League and NAACP are charging the city's police with lying about its collection of crime statistics.
The data specifies the race of each offender, something the Urban League says it was told by police was not done.
The controversy over race-based crime data has prompted Mayor Don Fraser to take action. Robin Robinson now joins us with more on this story.
Jeff, statistics by racial groupings are kept by many state agencies on how to handle the data.
Thanks very much, Robin. St. Paul police are asking the public for help tonight in finding a man wanted for murder.
21-year-old Carlos Thomas Hicks is being sought in connection with a shooting last night near the intersection of Marion Street and Aurora.
A Chicago woman is recovering from a brutal date rape and telling an amazing story of survival. The woman, who doesn't want to be identified, claims she was sexually assaulted at knife point by this man, then strangled with a nylon strap until she passed out. She woke up to find herself locked inside a car trunk where she spent the next 8 days. The woman was stabbed many times and left for dead by her assailant, but eventually she found a tool inside the car that helped her escape. She's warning other women to be more careful of the men they date.
Before you get in the car with anyone or get to know anyone, make sure you really know them, because 50 years don't make no difference, because you never know when they're going to strike out at you.
The suspect is being held on a $500,000 bail.
Police used tear gas to break up a riot.
The Space Shuttle Discovery is orbiting the Earth tonight. After a short delay caused by a flight recorder problem, the shuttle blasted off into space.
3, 2, 1. We have ignition and liftoff of Discovery on a research flight for the Department of Defense.
The 7-man crew will tackle what NASA is calling the most complicated mission yet. Over the next 8 days, astronauts will conduct extensive research for the Star Wars missile defense program.
Volunteers are pouring into Andover, Kansas.
Of course, we're all waiting to hear how the North Stars are doing, and now we're going to go to Jim Gilliland, who's live out at Met Center to fill us in on what's happening. Jim.
Well, we told you at the top of the show, Jeff and Maureen, that there was a little bit of tension. No goals. Game on Channel 9 will come Thursday night. Jeff and Maureen, back to you.
Thanks a lot, Jim. Of course, we want to let you know at home that if the game ends after the news is off, we'll put a little message on the bottom of your screen to let you know how the outcome was.
Good idea. We'll be right back in just a moment.
And the entire award-winning prime-time news team.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us. More than 1,000 young people jammed the Minneapolis Convention Center last night for a party that got out of hand.
However, the partygoers say the ones who lost control were Minneapolis police.
Dennis Cherry was...
Much of the East Coast is under a hurricane warning tonight. A big storm named Bob is approaching North Carolina. Bob is a level 3 hurricane, which means his winds are now topping 110 miles an hour. Tonight, the rush is on to get out of Bob's way.
We're hitting the road.
Thousands of tourists vacationing along the North Carolina coast have packed their bags and headed inland. This is where Hurricane Bob is expected to reach land sometime tonight.
We came down last year, it rained the whole week. We come down this year, we get a hurricane. What's next year?
Traffic from North Carolina's Outer Banks has been bumper to bumper all day. There's only one highway from these narrow islands to the mainland.
If I had another week's vacation, I wouldn't mind staying. I've never been in one.
Property owners are boarding up windows and hoping for the best as Bob approaches with 100-mile-an-hour winds.
Just partner up the best you can and cross your fingers for Mother Nature.
Some residents plan to ride out the storm.
We don't have hurricanes down here. The newspapers, television, and radio stations, the biggest hurricane we've ever had down here.
But weather forecasters say Hurricane Bob is nothing to scoff at.
Well, out there on the Outer Banks, there's not much protection out there. You basically got those little narrow spits of land that are out there, and so the water's going to rise 5 to 7 feet. Then you're going to have the 10-foot waves on top of that. So tremendous beach erosion.
Well, for the very latest on Hurricane Bob, let's go to meteorologist Ron Trendon. Ron, is the storm getting any stronger?
Yes, it has, Jeff, in the Hurricane Bob.
All right, thanks very much, Ron. We'll check with you later.
Okay.
Robin?
Authorities are investigating the death of a man found near some railroad track.
President Bush has a message for abortion protesters in Kansas. Abide by the law. Bush is refusing to interrupt his vacation to meet with leaders of the Wichita demonstrations. Over 2,000 people have been arrested in those protests. Operation Rescue officials say they're disappointed the president won't see them. The protesters say they're using nonviolent actions to bring about change. Pro-abortionists say their clinic-blocking tactics are equal to terrorism and harassment. An Oregon man who was given the wrong heart during a transplant operation last week now has a new one. This time, doctors say the heart is the right blood type and an excellent match. The patient is said to be in critical but stable condition.
A big shake. Two companies have also agreed to do some joint marketing. Jeff?
People were marketing their wares at the annual Cedar Fest celebration today. Musicians got the crowd into the beat of the day's festivities, which featured international dancers and dozens of arts and crafts vendors. There were also plenty of ethnic dishes on hand to sample. And for the fashion conscious, racks full of tie-dye t-shirts. Special attractions just for kids were on hand, too. Well, this weekend, the trumpets blare heralded the opening of the Minnesota Renaissance Festival.
The annual event is celebrating its 21st anniversary, and Nicole Nemi was there.
Welcome to the 1991 Renaissance Festival.
The Renaissance Festival runs weekends until September 29th. So we should ask Ron Trenda, Sir Ron Trenda, prithee tell us.
Prithee tell us.
What the weather looks like.
What hath the night forecast?
I can't think of any medieval talk, but it does look pretty good. We have some sunshine on the way, and I'll have the latest on Bob when we come back. One for Tuesday, mostly sunny, 80 to 84. We'll keep an eye on Bob and have more on Bob tomorrow.
Looks great around here, though. Thanks.
Sure does, yeah.
Up next in sports, the Twins take on Oakland in a rare Sunday night game.
Perry Williams will have the highlights, and he'll show us the winner of the Northgate Golf Classic.
On that straightaway and bring it.
The Twins know how to handle the A's. Just let them feel comfortable in the lead and then surprise them.
Come up with a rally, and the Oakland bullpen is not what it used to be.
Yeah, well, we'll keep an update on that.
Thanks, Perry. We'll be right back with a final look at the forecast.
And the story of a person in a sticky situation. Stay tuned.
Everything worked out okay in the end. Rescuers finally showed up and used warm water to free the youth's tongue.
I hate it when that happens.
I know some folks that have done that.
Oh, yeah. I think everybody does.
Nice weather for us, right?
Nice weather for us. A lot of sunshine tomorrow. Temperatures a little cooler than normal, but we'll take them. 74 to 78.
And the entire award-winning primetime news team.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining us. Holy cow, they did it again. The Twins are in the World Series.
Right now, the new American League champs are celebrating tonight's win over the Blue Jays.
Our Jim Gilliland is in Toronto and has more on the post-game party.
Now we've seen all the celebration by the players and the fans.
Now it's time to see some of the great plays that put the team in the 91 October Classic, and Perry Williams is here with the highlights of the 5th and final game of the American League Championship Series.
Well, they swept them in the Sky Dome, and they win the series because great middle and late relief pitching and outstanding offensive balance. Let's take a look at the highlights from Game 5.
You bet. Thanks, Perry.
Thanks, Perry.
Even before the players were willing to say the words World Series out loud, the city here in Minneapolis began planning on it.
The planning of a national event that will bring more than 55,000 fans to the Metrodome can be a logistical nightmare. Julia Sanders joins us now. Julia, is Minneapolis even ready?
They're ready, not only ready, but anxious.
Thanks,
Let's hope
Julia.
not. Thanks, Julia.
Well, we have some breaking news we'd like to pass on to you.
At this moment, a man in Richfield is barricaded inside his home.
Police SWAT teams are on the scene, although it's not known if the man who is armed is holding any hostages. Neighbors in the 6700 block of Clinton Avenue say they heard up to 6 shots fired inside the home. We'll keep you posted on this story as we receive more information. Tonight, a Washington Post poll indicates that despite the ongoing finger-pointing and accusations, half the nation still believes Judge Clarence Thomas should be confirmed to the Supreme Court.
On day 3 of the Senate hearing, supporters of both Professor Hill and Judge Thomas appeared at the Capitol for what's become a heavyweight bout.
Tonight in St. Cloud, one of the largest strikes in recent history continues. Union members have closed down the Frigidaire plant and vow to keep it closed until their demands are met. Nicole Nemi brings us the story. Well, the bubble has burst. It's going to get cold around
It's going
here.
to get much colder. It's going to be windy, too. I'll have all the forecast details when we come back.
There are also private sales going on around the streets of Minneapolis, and Jeff Baillon down there live with more on that story. Jeff?
Well, Perry, as you know, this game has been sold out for a long time. The only way to get tickets, know somebody or turn to a scalper. Now, you can find them on the streets around the Metrodome or in the newspaper. A lot of them advertise toll-free numbers you can call, give them your credit card number, and they'll deliver tickets to your home. Earlier today, the going price for a cheap seat, mind you, was $100, but that all changed tonight. What do you want for them?
25
Oh, less than face value? Outside the Dome tonight, bargains galore. The hottest ticket in town had cooled down by game time. Scalpers who earlier in the day were asking $75 a seat were lucky to get face value.
These seats will be sold at a loss, yes. Personally, I never lose. I'm Donald Trump.
It is a step.
Why?
Because look at the seats everywhere. You can get a ticket.
It was a pleasant surprise for these guys who expected to pay a small fortune to be here.
I was willing to pay $40, $50 if I had to get it.
The drop in prices meant little work for undercover police officers. It's a misdemeanor to sell tickets for more than face value. Police have been on the lookout for scalpers since mid-afternoon. Several people were cited. Police confiscated their tickets and their money.
How much were you trying to sell it for?
Just 40.
What was the face value?
$30.
That man was not a professional ticket scalper, but he and 17 other people learned a hard lesson tonight. Police are not going to tolerate anybody selling tickets above face value. Perry, back to you.
Well, thank you, Jeff. So there you see, there are indeed some...
It's warmer, and you don't have so much what you call need for the heat. And therefore, you perhaps not can use it in the same way in Sweden. In Sweden, we use about 80 to 90% of the heat energy in the waste. But when you're speaking about New York, with so amount of waste, I think the best way is to incinerate, as in some Sweden cities also, because they have a very big amount also.
How are we doing on tape?
We should switch them.
Okay. Do you have we're going to just change our tape for a sec.
Yes.